Welcome to another OnlyLens review. Today we have the new Tamron 50-300 f4.5 to 6.3, which is a very light super telephoto lens. And we're gonna use it today to see what it's all about. So this lens is an $800 telephoto lens that shoots from 50 to 300 millimeter, which is actually pretty great. And I know somebody's gonna ask, don't they have a 50 to 400 with the same aperture? Which yes, they do, but in a bit, I'll show you the difference on the sizing of it. But first, let's get a little bit more into the details of this lens. One of the things that I like about the Tamron lenses is that they all have the 67 millimeter kind of filter thread. The only one that doesn't, that I've tested out, at least for myself, has been my 35 to 150, which to me is actually pretty nice just because I just get the 82 millimeter filter thread size that allows me just to use my step-up ring. So that's not the biggest deal for me. When it comes down to this lens, it's not as heavy as other telephoto lenses, which is quite nice because one of the main reasons why a lot of people tend to kind of, not want to go for these type of odd focal ranges is due to the heavy size of it, which I did with the 50 to 400 previously in the channel when I tested it out. So that's pretty much it when it comes down to the little bit of the spec side of this kind of lens. And I want to go ahead more to put it to the test to see how it feels in the hand, what I can do with it, give you some results so that way you can get a little bit of an idea when it comes down to this lens. One of the cool things about this lens is that it has the vibration compensation technology that Tamron's been putting into their more telephoto types of lenses. So I wanted to test it out with the bird eye autofocus just to see how it works out with it, because I'm going to be a little bit closer, but that way I can get nice and close and personal with the 300 all the way, see what I can get out of it and see how well the autofocus works with it. Oh, I didn't get that one, but let's see what we can get out of this little bird eye autofocus. Get the little guy over there. We'll even go to the 100 range from here. So we're gonna shoot from 50 to show you guys how it works. So we're here at 50, boom, 70, boom, 100, boom, 135, boom, 200, and then the 300, all from the same location so you guys can see the difference of them. Oh, he's posing for it. Get back over here, Jeffrey. As we kept roaming around, we found this nice, big bird. It was just kind of there, looked very beautiful with the sunlight and everything. So I wanted to try to get close to it and try to get some photos. It started flying away, which was fine. I wanted to test out the autofocus of this lens, how well it would, pair up with my Sony a7 IV as the bird would fly. And I think it did a pretty good job that we captured some cool stuff. We have some people over there that I'm gonna try to get zoomed in all the way. Alright, we're gonna use this section right here to get these people while they're crossing. If I can get it, because the sun is like... The good thing about having a really good range of telephoto is that you can get a lot of kind of scenery if you want to, but then also able to get a little bit of zoomed in action. So right here, for example, right there, and I can zoom in all the way there. I saw a person from across the lake, so I wanted to take a photo of them as well using the telephoto range. We found this little bird nest that it was just very cute, so we had to take a photo just to capture it with the zoom range of this lens. Well, now that we've done a little bit of bird photography, I'm going to try to do a little bit of portraits with it just to see how good, the 4.5 to 6.3 can be with the bokeh and everything, since I got asked about seeing how the bokeh would function with this one. I wanted to start with portraits from a distance using what this lens is about, the zoom range. I just saw the shadow against her on the wall that I thought it'd be kind of cool to capture her just walking back and forth to get a bit of different types of portraits for a full body type of style as she used the shadows within her to just get some cool photo. So I wanted to test out how the 50 to 300 range would just work from one location. So I had Kelsey just stay in the spot while I went through each focal range that this lens provided from the 50 all the way to the 300 from the same location so you can see how it works. And once again, I wanted to showcase how the telephoto worked from each focal length from the 50 all the way to 300 from the same location to showcase a difference in compression and how much it zooms in from the same distance. So this is the two sizes of the lenses. This is the 50 to 300 and this is the 50 to 400. This is the, kind of what you're giving up and what you're gaining. You're giving up 100 millimeters versus, gaining it, but you also get a lot more weight and a lot more, chunkiness with it. You get a little bit more custom buttons with this one. You have like the custom 1, 2, 3 for the 50 to 400, little button over here in the vibration compensation mode 1, 2, and off. This one, you don't have the vibration compensation button whatsoever, but it does have it. It has it right there. It says BC. Whenever it says that on a Tamron lens, it says it is vibration compensation, which is a form of kind of like stabilization within the lens itself to pair up with the, the camera body itself. It's really good for, I guess, more for the telephoto range of things. Helps you out a little bit, just so you kind of know in that aspect. But this right next to each other, so you can see how it works on the sizing department. If you can tell right here, so the 50 to 300 and then the 50 to 400 right there next to each other. Yeah, it's crazy to see the difference of them. Doesn't look like a lot on camera, but if I put them next to each other, that's how much it would come out with for the other one. The chunkiness right there. So you get the idea. But now that we've seen a little bit of kind of nature and a little bit of portraits, just to showcase how the bokeh looks with this and how good the autofocus can be, I'm gonna share a little bit of why I was planning to test out this lens. Mainly is for sports photography, for what I would need. So we're gonna go into my tennis academy right now so you can see how well it performs with the tennis and everything a little bit more sport in action, moving faster with this camera setup. Here, I wanted to take photos from as far away as I could, as well trying to get up close with the lens. The main purpose of this is to try to test out how well I can focus from afar to get photos with a more telephoto lens, since I'm going to be using it at the US Open, and I wanted to test out how well it could perform from the 50 all the way to the 300 with more motion and activity. But now that we're back, I'm gonna show you a little bit of the video of how it looks within this camera, so that way you can see how it looks with the setup, with the lens and everything. See if it's something that you would want for a type of telephoto lens for the video, since I know it has a, not as nice aperture with a 4.5 to 6.3, but it is a more telephoto lens, so we'll see how it performs. So this is right now being shot at 50 millimeters, so you can see how it works within the camera, just to show you the difference. And then we're gonna zoom into the 70 range and keep it there for a little bit, so that way we can kind of keep it at the same style the whole way through. And now we're gonna move on to the 100. And then the 135. And then the 200. And then the 300. To showcase a little bit of the zoom range capabilities when it comes down to this lens setup like that. So now I'm gonna try to do a little bit more handheld with my A7 IV, where the stabilization isn't as good as my ZV-E1 with the dynamic active stabilization, just to see how it holds handheld with the vibration compensation within this lens, to see if it's usable, or if you would still need something else to maybe stabilize it better. So this is at 50 millimeters. $70 millimeters handheld. 100. 135. All right, we're the 200 handheld. And then the 300 handheld. Now that we've done it, I want to do a little bit of slow motion with the 60 frames per second with the A7 IV because it goes into APS-C mode, just to see how good it actually functions or not, just because you'll get that extra range. So this is at 50 millimeters handheld with 60 frames per second to the 70 range, 100 range, 135, 200, and then 300. I wanted to provide a little bit of extra B-roll for you guys to see the quality of this lens. Well, we are back from doing our nice OnlyLens review examples of the new Tamron 50-300 4.5 to 6.3. I want to give you a little bit of my thoughts when it comes down to this lens, to just give you a little bit of the thought process of how I view it, for the pricing, for the specs out of it, and how good it could be or how bad it could be, to see if it's the right lens for you. Personally, for $800 that is worth of this lens, getting a 50-300 with the quality of the type of body that it is, with the aperture of a 4.5 to 6.3, despite of it being a variable aperture, I'm actually quite impressed. Not gonna lie, I honestly was kind of a little bit skeptical when it came down to it because of the aperture. I wasn't 100% sold on it because I've tested out the 50-400, that's a 4.5 to 6.3. And obviously you need to have a little bit more light when it comes down to those types of lenses because of a higher aperture, but it's actually quite fine. The great thing about this lens is that it comes with the vibration compensation for that price point, and you're getting a really good telephoto lens because from 50-300, it's just an unreal focal range that is really awesome. I personally love my 35-150, that's an f2 to 2.8 by Tamron. So having that extra, weight and focal range has never really bothered me. I actually kind of like it because if I can, condense down to have something just for more stops, with one lens, it's always nice. So having a 50-300 for this weight that is even less than my 35-150 is quite surprising and very, very welcome. So thank you, Tamron, for that. To be honest, very, very happy about that part. Because if you compare it to the 50-400, it is a massive difference of weight and size for what you're getting out of it. Yes, you get a little bit more focal range, which the 100 extra millimeter range that you get, it is quite nice, don't get me wrong. So not hating on this one. You get those extra custom buttons. But for me personally, I don't need the extra custom buttons. I'm okay with giving 98% of them up and having this one little button here for minor things. Because with my Sony a7 IV, I have it customized to what I need, that I'm gonna be fast and efficient no matter what. So I'm okay with giving up that extra focal range for a lot lighter telephoto lens that I'm actually going to want to take out with me to take some different types of photos, to just get something different. I really love being able to take photos from one location to zoom in all the way. I have made a video before about how focal ranges, like zoom range lenses, sometimes affect my creativity. But when it comes down to these kind of telephoto lenses, it's a different type of subject you're trying to capture anyway, that it makes it a lot cooler to do with that extra, zoomed in range. You get really good establishing shots with the 50mm, that nifty 50, even at 4.5 is still great, all the way to the 300. It's kind of hard to beat, especially for $800. I mean, their 28-75 usually is $899, I believe, or maybe $799. And right now it's like on sale for $699, which is a 28-75 f2.8, great lens. And it's about the same size, maybe a little bit less, like about there probably. They both zoom out, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite impressive that they were able to do it with this one. I was actually very intrigued by it. Because the main reason why I wanted to test this lens out and why I reached out to Tamron about, lending me this lens, and as well the 50-400, is because I'm going to New York City later in the year to be able to take some photos at the US Open as well, and around the New York City for videos that I want to create. And I needed a telephoto lens, especially at the US Open, because as much as it'd be great to be able to be up close and personal on the tennis courts and everything for the players, sadly, you don't get that access that easily. I actually try to do a certain type of media pass to be able to be closer, which say if you're not a TV organization, it's kind of impossible to get. So I'm able to just still go to the event, but I'm not going to be able to be that close. But I'm going to be able to zoom in with this bad boy and still get some good shots, because I'm leaning with the 50-300 for that purpose, because of the light, compact body of this lens paired up with my a7 IV. Pretty great. But now let's talk about who this lens could be for when it comes down to this 50-300 for this OnlyLens review. I think personally, if you're wanting to dive into getting into the telephoto side of things, where you're not 100% sure what focal range you would want to do to be able to spend more money on the, like, let's say the 200 to 600 by, Sony, things of that sort, this would be a phenomenal lens to get into. For $800, it's just kind of hard to beat. You get a good quality lens. It's not going to be too bulky or too heavy. You're going to want to be able to use it because it's not, overly heavy like other lenses could be at this range, that you're going to want to come out and bring it. You have a decent amount, of your customization, you have good aperture enough, and if you shoot with Sony, which is what this lens is for, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine 100%, because I've used it with my Sony a7 IV. There's no issues with the low light capabilities. Just crank up that ISO. Don't be scared of a little bit of grain. You'll be fine, I promise you. I do it all the time. I've shot photos that people are like, why did you keep your ISO so high and only like up your, your shutter speed? Because I wanted to freeze the moment more. I didn't want to, I don't mind the grain, it's okay. There's so much technology nowadays that you can clean up images a lot nicer, that I'm okay with that. So if you're wanting to dive into it, maybe you want to do a little bit more sports photography, like if you want to do at a soccer field, maybe football, a little bit of basketball, tennis like myself, baseball or anything, the 50-300 will give you enough range that you'll be fine. All things considered, you might not get every little detail that you might want to from really far away, but that's when you have to dive into a 600mm one to be able to capture those really far away people. So you're gonna have to pick and choose your battles. But overall, if you wanna do a little bit of that and some wildlife photography, maybe you wanna be able to get, some wildlife from a little bit of a distance, going to be perfect for you for the price point. Now, obviously the cons of this lens is just going to be mainly their aperture. The aperture from 4.5 to 6.3 doesn't require more ISO if you want to freeze time with your shutter speed. So you're going to crank it up. That's the biggest, I guess, downfall of this lens is going to be that, but I can't really think of anything else. It has vibration compensation for $800. So that's what the VC part of this lens is, which is very nice. You have really good stabilization with your, your camera. If you shoot with a ZV-E one and use dynamic active stabilization, you'll be fine. If even with my a7 IV, I'm okay with it. It's not gonna be perfect like anything, but you have something better than nothing, which is the nicest part about it, especially for this price point. So not really much of negative things that I can talk about this lens, besides the aperture is just the one thing that sucks, because if you made a faster aperture, you would have a massive lens anyway, and it would not cost anywhere near to the $800 or to the $1,300 like the other one is. So pick and choose your battles when it comes down to that. But that's pretty much it when it comes down to this lens. I'm thoroughly impressed, very excited to actually use it later on for the US Open to capture that. So whenever I have that video later on in like late August, early September time, you'll be able to see more examples of how good it could perform, or maybe how it didn't, but I'm betting that it will, because it's worked out perfectly so far already with my students at the Tennis Academy taking photos and videos, that I was actually very excited now to want to go to the US Open to be able to capture these images with a very compact telephoto lens. So if you have any questions regarding this lens and you want to know more about it, if you have any doubts or any concerns, any questions that I didn't cover when it comes down to this lens whatsoever, please leave them down below in the comment section. I'd be more than happy to help you out to see how I can make it a lot easier for you to have peace of mind getting this lens, or maybe figuring out if the next one is going to be better for you, to find a different, whether it's brand, focal range, or anything like that. I'm just here to try to help you guys out to make sure you get the best gear that you can to go out to create, because that's the most important thing. You want to get the gear that's going to make you go create. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Share this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.